In 2021, ASUS decides that it needs to reintroduce the laptop, which arguably changed the budget gaming market, the TUF A17 FA706. Instead of making any significant visual changes, and rebrand it, they just slapped 2021 at the name and called it a day. However, this is only a part of the story. Building on the Ryzen 4000H success, they now employ the latest and greatest from both AMD and NVIDIA, with the Ryzen 5000H processors, based on the Zen 3 architecture, and the new RTX 3000 graphics cards. Well, there is a lot to be talked about, but we have to praise them for being one of the first out there. Will this hasty approach deliver quirky results? Or they had more time? Regardless of the answers to those two questions, we really hope that the TUF A17 2021 delivers, because the only winner will be you, the consumer. Inside the package, we found some paper manuals, a 200-watt power brick, and a set of TUF branded stickers. As we mentioned, the TUF A17 2021 is largely unchanged from its 2020 predecessor. Once again, the entire body is made out of plastic, with the only difference being the lid, which now employs a more robotic sticker, compared to the chivalric TUF logo. In terms of measurements, we are talking about 23.3 to 24.8 mm thickness, and a weight of 2.60 kg. Pretty good size for a 17-inch laptop. Although the chassis is plastic, we feel that it still has pretty strong support, with very little flex being observed both from the base and the lid. Speaking of which, the lid refuses to open with a single hand. Thankfully, though, once you get it open, you will see a webcam placed above the display. The screen, itself, features an anti-reflective finish, while the bezels to the sides and the top are rather thin. Unfortunately, when you twist the lid, you will notice some color shifting on the display, so it is better not to twist it. Next, let's take a look at the keyboard deck, which is completely unchanged from last year. We see an RGB backlit board, with transparent WASD keys. The key travel is good, and the feedback is rather clicky, making for a good gaming and typing experience. Also, the notebook features a number pad section. However, once again, we see one of the smallest arrow keys on the planet, hardly usable for anyone with a normal finger layout. It's worth mentioning that when you combine the F5 key with the function button, you can switch between the Armory Crate performance presets. It is a bit less intuitive than the dedicated button we had on the ASUS TUF F15 FX516, but it's still good to have the option, nonetheless. In terms of the touchpad, we see a quick and accurate unit with a couple of dedicated buttons below it. So, if we turn the laptop upside down, we can see that the bottom panel looks a bit closed, to say the least. However, the amount of ventilation grills and their location channels the air to specific locations before it reaches the fans, which makes the bottom plate a bit cooler, and in theory, should supply enough air for the fans. Other than that, we get the speaker cutouts, and 3 exhaust vents, 2 on the back, and 1 on the right side. On the left side, there is the charging brick, an RJ45 connector, an HDMI 2.0B connector, 2 USB Type-A 3.2 Gen 1 ports, a USB Type-C 3.2 Gen 2 port, and an audio jack. And on the right, there is only one USB Type-A 3.2 Gen 1 port. ASUS TUF Gaming A17 is equipped with a 144Hz Full HD IPS screen. Its diagonal is 17.3 inches, and the resolution 1920 by 1080. Additionally, the screen ratio is 16:9, the pixel density 127 pixels per inch, their pitch 0.1995 by 0.1995 mm. The screen can be considered retina when viewed from at least 69 cm. From this distance, the average human eye can't see the individual pixels. Its viewing angles are comfortable. We have provided images at 45 degrees to evaluate quality. The maximum measured brightness is 315 nits in the middle of the screen and 285 nits average across the surface, with a maximum deviation of 16%. The correlated color temperature on a white screen and at maximum brightness is 6540 Kelvin, matching the 6500 Kelvin optimum for sRGB. On the illustration you can see how the display performs from a uniformity perspective. The illustration shows how matters are for operational brightness levels, approximately 140 nits, in this particular case at 44% brightness, white level equals 142 candelas per square meter, black level equals 0.12 candelas per square meter. Values of DA 2000 over 4.0 should not occur, and this parameter is one of the first you should check if you intend to use the laptop for color-sensitive work. The contrast ratio is good 1190:1. To make sure we are on the same page, we would like to give you a little introduction to the sRGB color gamut and the Adobe RGB. To start, there's the C1976 uniform chromaticity diagram that represents the visible spectra of colors by the human eye, giving you a better perception of the color gamut coverage and the color accuracy. This notebook can be purchased with the Ryzen 5 4600H, and the Ryzen 7 4800H, as well as the Ryzen 5 5600H, and Ryzen 7 5800H. As for the graphics, the unit comes with the GTX 1650, RTX 3060, and RTX 3070. There are also two unannounced models, that pack 4 GB of GDDR6 VRAM. Here are some gaming tests we ran on GeForce RTX 3070 and gameplay videos we ran on the GeForce RTX 3060.